I could write the why me. Like, I really do. Good luck to someone else trying to do this in a more genuine way. What I have done professionally, personally, socially has perfectly led to this. But I think that's what made the idea so natural. The idea is that we can improve care today. Cancer is not one disease, it's thousands of diseases. And our fund is focused on the near-term, commercial, actionable ways to get folks treated better, quicker, earlier. I want to hopefully create through our fund portfolio mission some form of urgency. I think there is a lot of urgency in cancer care, but people are dying. Like, people are literally dying today because of perverse incentive structures, lack of interoperability, like stuff that is so fixable. And if I could in some way help fund, support, encourage people in positions of power to make that dent, I'll be happy.
Hello, everyone. We are back. I'm Mike Ma. I am host of Alone Together, and we're back for season 2. I didn't think when we started this there would be a season 2, let alone a finish of season 1. But because the dozens of people who've written us said, please produce another episode, we are back in 2026. I'm feeling all fresh and fired up and ready to go. And I have my good friend Freeberg from Oncology Ventures, who I owe an enormous set of apologies to, because I think I canceled on this twice, trying to get this setting up last year. So thanks for coming on and welcome to the show.
Of course, thanks for having me. I love the title, love the idea, so happy to support.
Absolutely, man. The reason I've been so excited is because your story is amazing. You know, the gig on this show, we really talk about. We're not really talking here X's and O's around deals and cap tables, etc. But I was wondering if you do us the service of just telling a little bit about the fund and a little about you, so we can have some context and we drive into some of the more personal aspects of this crazy, stupid journey that we're on of raising a fund and deploying it. And you're on fund 2 and doing all these amazing things. Would you do us that honor? Just give us a little bit of context on you and what you're up to.
100%. So Ben Freeberg, it's good to meet everyone via podcast listening platform X. And I started my career. My first job was teaching tennis. I was working at country clubs on Long Island, hitting with everyone from 5-year-olds to older women. So much fun. I went to Duke undergrad, started doing some entrepreneurship work there, and then went to investment banking after college, which was a very good place to train and learn. And then from there, moved into venture capital. So joined the team at Alpha Partners. I was their first hire. We now manage quite a bit more capital than when we started, helping early stage funds fill out their pro rata. I mean, you know this, when you as an early investor and a solo GP that are so intimately involved with all of your companies, you know which ones are, really pulling away and really building something special, and you want to put as much as you can into it. So we helped funds support companies like that. And then that was when I was diagnosed with cancer while I was there. And I was young, healthy, active, and had everything going for me, and it was still terrible. I was treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering. I had good health insurance. I had an incredible support system. And I wasn't diagnosed until stage 3A. So it spread throughout my whole body, metastasized. And I could have been diagnosed at stage 1. I was in the hospital a year before I was diagnosed. I had passed out, and they said, "Oh, you might have just been dehydrated, or you're getting older, or whatever else." I was like, I don't know. I feel like this is more than that, and should have really listened to my body, and ended up trusting the system. And the system didn't really work at that point. And so that was what got me on this frustrating journey of learning as much as we could about the healthcare world and what I could do to help. So I moved over to Optum Ventures, venture arm of Optum United Healthcare. And we just got to see so much in the space of how better use of data and care delivery could truly impact care today, and realized that there was an opportunity to do that for cancer. So I spent a year working at a company called Time Care. We help do value-based care for cancer care with a few investors that I'm sure you know well on the cap table, just to make sure I understood how it works to build this before I go and back them. Which brings me to, and then I'll wrap up this hopefully less than 3-minute overview, launch of Oncology Ventures. So launched about almost 3 years ago exactly, raised fund one. We raised 32 million, invested into 18 companies.
Ooh, good for you, man.
Appreciate it. With a lot of just incredible cancer center strategic fund-to-fund family office partners who I'm very grateful for putting us in business. And now I don't know what we can or can't share in forums like this, but growing into the next stage of our fund cycle with some pretty exciting net new partners. So really looking forward to tripling down on this strategy of how do we improve cancer care today. That's it.
I mean, it's amazing. I'm sure that's not it. I've been just fascinated with your story. I mean, where's the first time we met? Do we meet at Ryda's thing at Omcon's dinner, or
that's also possible. She and her team have been an incredible LP.
Yeah, shout to Ryda and Omcon Ventures, who is a big supporter of solo GPs and on our podcast circuit herself. She hosted an amazing dinner. I think that's where we met, and then you opened the Sutton cohort at and I was in Joel's cohort at the time, and you killed. And we should talk about this. I'm gonna, because fun fact for people who don't know or have the internet and not Googling. Ben's a comedian, and we're going to talk about that. I want to talk about, and you gave the opening set and warmed up the crowd for a pitch. So I thought it was great.
That was really fun. I've done it for Cool Water, another accelerator cohort, and then it's such a unique form of a comedy circuit, but I just did Memorial Sloan Kettering's Innovation Day. I've done a Mount Sinai hospital party, holiday party, and it's been a really unique way to blend venture, healthcare, and comedy. I have so much fun doing it.
No, I want to get to this. As you're someone who has like a serious side gig and venture as well, both in terms of comedy merits on its own. But I want to return to something that when you talked about your journey that struck me. Did you know you wanted to open Oncology Ventures and you went through all these things methodically? When I hear you tell the story, it sounds like, hey, like I was at Alpha, and I know that group, they're great. But like this happened to you, and now I know my path, and I'm going to start doing the things that I have to do I'm going to go to Optum. I'm going to see deals. I'm going to go be an operator, and then I'm going to like, or was it more discovery based? And in terms of where you are today, I'm just curious, was it a journey and a point, or was it a wandering, or some combination thereof?
Almost exclusively a learning journey throughout. I have, as I'm sure you have too, a list of business ideas on your phone. And I remember always wanting to start something. And it was when I came up with Oncology Ventures, it was the first business idea where I was like, wow, I could write the why me. Like, I really do. Good luck to someone else trying to do this in a more genuine way than I think we were able to do, because it's so like it feels so personal, and it feels like each part of what I have done professionally, personally, socially, like has perfectly led to this. But I think that's what made the idea so hopefully natural, because I really care about this, and I really do think that there is this gap in the market between real-time impact that commercially driven companies can have for cancer that is not drug development, and that is not the nonprofit world, both of which are incredibly important. But I am a big stay in my lane, and I think this is the lane that I've continued to hopefully develop.
In plain speak, almost if we had to take our GP hat off from this perspective, what is the plain speak lane that's missing, especially since you're out of the pharma aspect of it? You're on the data and infrastructure side of, so I almost want to speak to it more from the perspective of, all of us have been touched by cancer at some point in time. Like, just what does this have to do with the price of eggs? Metaphorically speaking, in terms of what is the industry missing that you're looking to back?
So right now, without any net new drug to cure cancer, which we could talk about later, and for folks listening, I did that in air quotes, we could truly save half of the deaths that happen annually in cancer care today if we did, I think, three things. Detect cancer earlier. Way too many people are being diagnosed in stage 2, 3, 4, and the stages for cancer care, it starts in, normally there's an origin, right? So sometimes that's easier to detect in like a solid tumor, which is a mass, versus blood cancer that goes throughout your body is a basic way to think about it. And as it metastasizes or spreads throughout your body, it becomes more and more difficult to treat. And so there are, for breast cancer, for colorectal cancer, for lung cancer, we have these tests that if people did, followed, shared, we could find this cancer in stage 1 or 2 instead of waiting until stage 3 or 4. For breast cancer in particular, if we find it in stage 1, 97 to 99% treatable. If we wait until stage 3 or 4 to do so, you're down to sub 30%. And so that's one huge thing where a net new drug isn't going to fix that. That's better use of data. That's better education. That's better incentive structures to educate and prevent. The second bucket is, right now, the first oncologist or doctor you see is an incredibly strong determinant of your outcome, which means that if you go to X doctor or X oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering, you could have a different outcome than if you saw a different oncologist in, rural, name your state.
Well,
That's
yeah,
really hard.
I grew up in Cleveland. Oh, the Cleveland has Cleveland Clinic, so I was going to throw them on the bus. That doesn't work. But anyways, yes, a particular less enabled, less access to geography.
Exactly. And so we have these, it's called NCCN guidelines. It's what evidence-based medicine is right now in cancer care. We have that. And there are doctors and physicians that know that. So this gap between knowing that you could have a different outcome based on where you are treated today for cancer care in the US is unbelievable. So that's the second big bucket, is we're trying to enable, and sometimes it's not the lack of access, it's also the lack of time. I mean, people are, whether it's prior authorization or all of these administrative headaches, oncologists don't get to spend as much time as they should and can with the end patient doing other administrative work. So that's the second big bucket that I think we could really improve today, is regardless of where you get diagnosed, let's have everyone have the same outcome. And that is very possible based on where we are now with data, AI, etc. We just have to change a little bit of the incentive structure around that too. And then I would say the third bucket is all of the other stuff that happens during your journey. So we know that the impact a care navigator could have. I mean, picture navigating your healthcare system on a good day when you're feeling great. Now picture it when you're on your third round of chemotherapy, you have no white blood cells left, you're taking 40 different meds, you have to coordinate with your PCP, your surgeon, your radiologist, radiation oncologist, your family, your pharmacy, all of these different pieces. Med adherence isn't perfect. Like, there are all these aspects of your care journey that if we could also help, we'd reduce emergency room visits and we'd help improve the outcomes because people would be more adherent and have that support. So that's what our fund is really about. There's so much more detail we can go into on like the pick and shovel approach and everything else. But the idea is that we can improve care today. Cancer is not one disease, it's thousands of diseases. And our fund is focused on the near term commercial actionable ways to get folks treated better, quicker, earlier.
Amazing. I'm going to talk into the air quotes at another time too. In the world's history of like the worst transitions ever, so you have cancer and comedy. Like, okay, what's funny about cancer?
Yeah.
I mean, I have watched some of your clips, but like, how do you put this jigsaw puzzle together in a way that makes any sense? And how does that work for you? And why did you do it this way?
Yes. So I remember the first day I knew, because I even thought it was too far. So I had started doing comedy maybe a year or two before I got diagnosed with cancer. And I remember being in the hospital and thinking like, oh, this would have been really cool if I could turn this into comedy, but like, how can you do that? And then I remember the oncologist coming into me. I was 24 years old. And again, for the folks who can't see me, I'm like, I just, I was a young male. And I was told by my oncologist that I had to follow a pregnant woman diet while going through this journey. And that means that you can't eat raw fish, you can't have alcohol. And I was like, okay, if this isn't funny, like if this idea that at 24 years old, having to follow a pregnant woman diet because I had a blood clot in my lung that ended up being a big tumor, like that is insane. I was just on a run. Like I was just playing tennis. I was just doing all of this stuff. If that's not funny, then like this is going to be really, really difficult. And so I got advice. I was on a show with do you remember Caroline Ray? She was Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Sabrina the Witch. Yeah.
So
it's spelled RHEA, right? Like,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she came up to me after the show when I started doing my first comedy bit, and she had personal history with cancer and her parents, and taught me. And so her best advice I remember was just write about everything that truly exhibits a really strong emotion in you. And then once you write it all down, just stop every sentence or two and find the funny. Like just try 3 or 4 different jokes. And that means that there's something that someone else will relate to and will hopefully see in a different light after. And so the rest of my cancer journey, I spent trying to figure out jokes for every single part of it. I mean, I lost my hair. That was like, there were so many points of that journey that I thought were absolutely hysterical. Like I remember being bald, walking around New York City, and other bald guys looking at me and like giving me like the head nod up and hi. Like,
what's up? I see you, bald guy.
I'm not part of your class. It's just temporary. So I think like that stuff was funny. I remember having to like explain my cancer to different people before my hair fell out. So there was just so much of it where it just, if it's not funny, it's sad. And so like find the funny in it.
I mean, I think I'm going to mess up the pun. I mean, I don't know what you did at set. It was like something like, hey, I mean, with testicular cancers, I'm proof that, comedy doesn't take balls or something.
Oh, yeah.
I think I screwed up the punchline or something like that. I remember, I think I had a glass of wine. I was like, what are some of the, I mean, here's an interesting question. Like you were writing jokes before your cancer diagnosis, right? What did you talk about before? What was your angle? What did you write jokes about then? And how has your diagnosis, your cancer, like changed your comedy?
Yeah. And I still do, a lot of writing. And you guys can see in my Oncology Ventures Substack, that's online every month. Great. I write a thesis around cancer, what's going on in the oncology world, innovation, and the back half is comedy. And they are not. It's a completely different thing. It's not on cancer all of the time, but I write about tech, venture, businesses. Last month was on how bad it is, how in this day and age, how you transitioning, leaving your home Wi-Fi to cellular is the most frustrating, difficult thing your phone has to do. Like that's insane how you have to like you lose service and whatever else. So I've done some bits like that. One of my first real bits was on that building 435. Oh my god, it's been so long since I did that. Park Ave, the tall looking one by Central Park.
Oh yeah.
Is so ugly and ruining New York City skyline. And so I remember reading about it, and the design for the building was based off of a trash can that won some art contest in Austria in like the early 1900s. And so the whole bit was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that, like that's exactly the backing behind it. And I wrote a 5-minute bit about the origin of the building and everything else. And so it was all over the place. It was just anything I saw, felt, read that I thought was funny or unique. I'd read some comedy about.
It's amazing. Yeah, I could talk a lot more about, I tried to find, like most comedians, I try to find you on Instagram and find your bits and stuff like that. But do you not publish them there? Like, do you have a
Yeah, I don't publish too much, especially now that I've been doing this fund. I am trying to keep the world separate. I actually had in version 1 of my deck for the fund, which that's how you share your story. You talk about your portfolio companies, your fund strategy, etc. And I had a link to one of my stand-up sets, and it was one of the most clicked because you could track everything in DocSend.
Right.
And so you could see whether people are clicking on investment memos versus market analysis versus fund terms, subscription all of these legal documents. And by far the most clicked on link in the deck was my stand-up set that I put in. So I don't know. I think when you're investing into a solo GP too, you're investing into the person. So I like for people to be able to know and hear what I'm working on, but I haven't shared too much publicly.
Well, I mean, this gets to some things that aren't people who are not comedians with cancer that I think we all struggle with, which is, we're told the adage is like, be you, right? You sell you.
Yeah.
It sounds like you went through a pass of the contour where it's like, that's too much. How do you modulate or monitor, like, this is the right part and this is you want to expose to me and this is not, like, and I'd love to think about it for like either existing GPs or like aspiring GPs who this is actually a big part of my like super angels who want to open a fund.
Yeah.
How do you think about that for yourself? And then I wonder how that manifests in any advice you may give to some of the people who may want to follow in your footsteps.
Yes. And so I still do that monthly Substack where, should I be running this fund? Should I be spending half the time writing and editing comedy bits? I think when you think about what it's like to be successful building a venture capital firm, you have to stay top of mind and you have to have people engaged and believe that you can add something to their company, their cap table, and have some differentiated access and returns. The amount of deals, co-investors, LPs, etc., that we have ended up partnering with because they have read our Substack, which I think people skim through sometimes to the comedy section, it pays for itself in spades. Plus, I really enjoy writing it. So I don't know how. Honestly, it's a really good question because it's probably something I should spend more time thinking about, but it's not very intentional of how much I do and don't share. It's just when I have something that I think other people should hear, I'm happy to put that out there. There was one post I wrote that was incredibly personal about my story and my journey. And I remember before I click send, because it goes out to, we're at almost 16,000 readers. And it's a lot of people to like press send to an email to. And I remember being so nervous. I'm like, people don't care. Like my first reaction that I was most nervous on is like, who am I to go and tell my story about my cancer journey to these people? They have enough going on. They're busy. And then the second piece was, oh my God, for all of the other people that are going through it, did I do that justice, or did I diminish it, or did I make light of something that's too hard? Like all of those pieces went through my head. That post got the most responses and engagement and phone calls and like tears from a lot of people. And I think it was because it was the most vulnerable and authentic I've ever been writing. So the advice part of it, which I don't know how often I follow it myself, but I try to, is it's so much easier. Like it's just less stressful also if you are just unapologetically you, because you don't have to be like, okay, I'm talking to Mike today. Mike thinks of me as this type of person. That's the energy I'm going to bring. It's exhausting, I think, if you don't do it that way.
On one hand, like I'm interested in, as you think about raising the fund, right? Like the old adage is like, you've met one family office, you've met one family office. So that does have a logical extension that you would personalize, right? But at the same time, it sounds like it's like, look, this is just who I am. And it sounds like you reap some benefits of just leaving yourself out there.
100%. And I think it's also people are so, it's what's memorable, right? So I think about also when you're raising a fund and you're going to a conference or whatever it is, you're not going to, I mean, it's obviously happened at some points and you never know who you're going to meet, but you don't go in there saying, okay, I'm meeting Mike at this conference. I'm going to close him and he's going to sign the subscription documents and wire me money today. You're going to meet people, learn, and set up a following meeting. Like you go to those things to get a meeting, to get into the process, whatever else. You're not going to stand out if you're telling the same story as everyone else, and there's no interest in, like, we saw each other at this event, and you were telling me about this this podcast, which Alone Together, I think it's just such a unique, great, simple name. And it was such a clear thing. And I didn't remember anything about what Sidecut invested into. But if you only led with that and that was all we discussed, maybe we would catch up in another few months or so and talk deals. But this is better.
Yeah.
And so I think that whatever you could bring to the table to help create some form of excitement around spending more time with someone else makes all the sense in the world.
I'm just going to spit back words I heard, right? Laughing, crying.
Yeah.
You had people cry in tears and laughing and vulnerability and fear and exposure. What role do you think I mean, people have this view of investing as like very like DPI, TVPI, what role do you think emotions play in what we do? But I mean, and I would love for you to answer from the perspective of both fundraising, but then also you as a GP as well. And when we make bets on people, I'm just curious, how do you think about emotions in both these exercises?
This is one of my favorite things to talk to other solo GPs about too. And so one of my friends, he started a fund called Ansonia Properties. They do real estate investing. And he sent me this podcast. It's called the Private Equity Fundcast. Have you listened to it?
No.
They do a 4-part for any solo GP. It is, I've listened to the whole thing maybe 3 times. It's just a 4-episode series. It's like 45 minutes an hour per episode. It's 4 parts. And they do such a good job explaining this, because one of the ones that I remember most clearly is they went into this meeting and this person raising capital, this person tore them apart saying, how could you do, I forget what the example is, but like, why would you build this fund with 2 people? Like, that's insane. It doesn't make any sense. And then they passed. And then they went to the next meeting and they spent the first 20 minutes saying, I just want to let you know all of the reasons why we're doing this fund with 2 people. And the guy's like, okay, like, why does that matter so much to you? Like, what's going on? And so it's almost this thing of like, yes, like, hear and listen to people, but you cannot over index on any one person's feedback or thoughts. But also, if you never listen to people's feedback or thoughts, you're not going to get better at telling the story and reaching out and whatever else. And so it's this like constant choice of listening where you're not going to be able to. No one ever, like no good company fund ever has had anything close to 100% hit rate on outreach, calling meetings to closed investors. It's actually impossible, because people are people. It's people's money. It's important. It's whatever else. You can't tell people what to do with their capital. And so it's emotional in that way, where there's a game you have to play of numbers, of outreach, of whatever else. But you also have to be very calm, where it's hard to not get excited when you get a really good partner. And it's also hard not to get bummed where you're like, oh, that would have made so much sense for them to come on board in so many different ways. And whatever else. So I think a lot of it is emotional regulation is really important on the fundraising side.
Yeah.
It's
just funny when you're, we'll go to the GP deploying side, because I definitely, but like when you were just talking about it, this reminded me of one LP I had, and he was just after me. He was like, why are you doing this as a solo GP? Like, this is so hard. This is like, and you're doing impact, which is like totally out of favor. And you're looking at pre-seed, which has no AUM, and like, you're not going to make any on fees and And like, it was like a long tirade, and it was just, so he's like, so why are you doing it this way? And all I looked at him was, I like it. It was just such a long litany of all that was all I could land on. And he's an LP in the fund. It's just like,
amazing.
I like this.
Yes.
and that was like just spinning in my head, like, why does it like, in terms of like, coming up with all this, and it I don't know why that it hits, from that perspective.
And you really have to like it, because it is so hard and so stressful. I mean, as a solo GP, I mean, how long would it take you to list out all of the responsibilities you have on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? It's you could hire 6 different people for all of this. You could.
I did this with I struggle to it. Like, this morning, our AGM is coming up. By the way, if you're back in New York, we'd love to have you. We're actually doing some comedy. I'm having Noah do pitch roast live and roast my founders.
Oh, no way. You just sent me a message literally yesterday.
Oh my God. Awesome. I did last night. Tuesday night, I did pitch roast live for his paid event. It was
oh my
amazing.
God. Oh, so I must have seen it on the Instagram stuff. Awesome.
Yeah. I got to sit next to Maddie with a fatty, and the huge shout to Maddie Smith, and like, I'm a huge Wild 'N Out fan, and Noah's like, oh, he's like, I'm definitely in. Anyways, awesome. I don't remember where I was going with this. About cop.
AGM, you were thinking about different ways, like this morning, spending your time.
Oh my God, no, it's like it's a huge mess right now. The 1,000 things going on, and I'm struggling to, like, I have one full-time associate and 2 real part-time amazing people. And it's like, I got, even just like going through the mental index of like parsing out work is like, it's so, it's like, that's like taxing. I know it's the right thing to do, and it gives me leverage, and they also want to help, but like, just, oh my God, it's just so, there's so much stuff up here. Right.
Yes. And so doing the podcast, why do you do this podcast on top of all that?
Therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I'll be very honest. I started it with a little bit of FU, which was, I'm sure you've gotten this, and then maybe this is a good, well, I'll put a pin in the GP thing and come back to like, oh, I don't invest in solo GPs. I don't invest in solo GPs. And so my view is like, well, screw you. I just go like meet with other people. Like, we're not solo, and the more time I spend in this community, like, we do stuff together. And
yes,
like, I just think that I have a lot of misgivings about that. So it's like that's why I started it, and just to like put faces to, I think, a misunderstood part of the market, our super small sliver of it. And I get to meet people like you, and get to, most of the time too. And a recurring theme, it's like, I'm just very thankful to have something other than like 5 seconds between a mediocre glass of wine at an event, and while you're running to this person and I'm running to that person. I'm very appreciative just to have the time to hang out with you, an excuse. Like, I'll be very honest, it's selfish therapy. And if people turn out like, yeah, well, please like and subscribe.
That's right. I completely agree. And that's if being a solo GP was what people thought being a solo GP was, in terms of actually being in your own world and partnership, yeah, that wouldn't work. But there are so many other people who have built and leveraged this before. Like, there were so many people I reached out to before I launched that had already done different parts of the homework around fund administration, around LP management, around what it means to do a first close. That's something that you don't really appreciate just working for a general other fund. It's just, there's a bunch of other pieces where having other mentors, colleagues, support is everything.
Yeah.
And you need it.
We'll just go on the solo GP thing, and we'll go back to the emotion decision making. But emotional, and then what's your externalized response? People says like, oh, well, what if you get hit by a bus? Have you been close to getting hit by a bus?
I mean, cancer was the closest bus type.
Bazinga!
But yeah, I mean, you have like some things where you're traveling or whatever else, and you're like, oh, well, like, fun to manage, where something just could happen and go wrong. I mean, how often are you on a plane? It's you're just, life is short and dangerous regardless. So yes, we did all of our legal check the boxes of what happens if that were to happen, like actual person and next steps and all of the flow of, okay, are we holding our investments? Are we continuing to invest? Is there an LP? But like, we did all of that work. But I also think that it's important to show people that all of the things, because people just ask, oh, what does your team look like? Because they don't know what else to ask. And they think it, on average, shares some form of legitimacy because it shows that you could recruit
Yeah.
and have other people believe in the mission so much that it's now beyond their full-time job. So I understand that. It also, some things take a lot of time. Like, we're very fortunate in that with our fund's name and our limited partners and how we've spent our time and how I built the career, that sourcing doesn't really take up on any of the time. Like, people hopefully will continue to see the words cancer and data in a deck and send it to us.
Yeah.
And so that's when you look at a lot of the big venture shops, a lot of the teams are just calling and emailing and reaching out. And then the second part is, how helpful could we be, right? Because you need to really support these companies in the early stage. And we're fortunate as well, where we're bringing them the number one thing they need, which is their customers. And we have them go in with the right person and the right decision maker at each group. So I do think that I'm trying to be very conscious of how support can help me. And I have an amazing executive assistant, and we have a CFO, and we have venture partners and advisors who are great. So I'm not trying to do this on my own. We might hire someone else. We might hire like a VP or principal type to support. But I think about it in terms of where can I get leverage for what we're doing.
Did I read somewhere that you would consider working with another GP, or no?
I would. Have if we found the right person. Awesome.
Have you been on a GP date before?
I have not.
You haven't? Oh
no. Have you done it?
Oh yeah, it's like the world's worst hinge vibe coded GP dating. No, I mean, I've a couple people. And I think it's a long. And you're much further along. It's a very intimate enterprise you built, right? It's very intimate. And so I joke the average marriage in the US is 8.6 years. And what we're doing, the duration is far longer. And that's my other thing I tell other LPs. It's like, look, the average marriage is 8.6 years. Like, if you're really here to mitigate risk, where's your partner breakup risk? Like, for me, it's very clear when my fund docs are, if I die, if I did get hit by a bus, it's very clear what happens. There's no... in breakups, and we know people who've broken up in different funds, and
it's hard.
It's equally. I mean, I think it's more fraught, but I don't know.
I completely agree. It's a whole other level of risk, and I actually think Ryder from AmCan, not to give her more airtime here, wrote a really, really good post about this on LinkedIn, talking about so many of the benefits of solo GPs, and one of them is a lot of those, it's just different risks. And it's different levels of conviction, right? I mean, a lot of those real winners in your portfolio, there's no way that your top performing portfolio companies would have gotten full partnership buy-in at the initial onset. They don't. Like those deals and opportunities are not the ones that have full consensus, and a lot of the times those win.
Can I return to like emotions and biases and what you and how you deploy capital? Like, how do you you laugh, you cry. Obviously, what you do is incredibly important to you from a lived experience perspective. How do you use emotion as an asset, not just like a liability management, to really make better investment decisions? Because I think everyone thinks like this investing is such a left brain. Ooh, like here it is. Here's what cell G28 says, and there you go. I'm in. I don't think that's the way you do deals. It's not at the pre-seed level how I do deals. I'm just curious how you use emotion as an asset in your underwriting.
There are very few times first that I have in this industry been asked questions for the first time. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question.
Yay! Ding, ding, ding. I got my bingo card.
That's so good. So I'll think for 1 second. I think it's two things. One is I need to see, hear, feel from the entrepreneur that this is not something where in the face of if we agree that the market is there, that the platform, tech, et cetera, is differentiated, that the unit economics make sense. So we do our, financial model work, all of those pieces. If we get there, there's still going to be so many roadblocks because you have to, when you build a team like that, you have to hire a bunch. That every net new person is a new risk. Healthcare sales are long and tough. So there's so many pieces of this where I need to know and feel that in the face of all of that, that's not a, oh, we're done. That's a like, okay, let's figure out different ways to get over that wall. And so I need to feel that energy, spark, excitement, commitment from the founding team. So we won't invest into a company until we sit down with them in person, which I think also is oddly rare
I
now,
know.
which is insane. Because again, these partnerships, as you're mentioning, could be years and years, and you want to get to know them on a personal level. So I actually think that's part one. And then part two is things like pro rata, things like information rights, like all of those pieces that are in legal documents. If you have a real relationship with the CEOs and executive teams you're backing, none of that matters. Like, I think pro rata is earned. I think there are all of these pieces of continuation, which is just as important as initial investment, especially if you have the right follow-on strategy. I think it's so, one, it's about being honest and open, and two, it's about like finding that in the right partners, because you need someone to be able to talk to you and tell you when things aren't perfect, because that's when you can really help. So anyway, I'll say the short summarized version is 100% important during the diligence process and follow on to have a real relationship where you're not just going based on numbers, even though that part is obviously incredibly important because it's a business, it needs cash, it needs a business model, it needs tech.
For any founders that are listening, I think that first part is, in terms of needing a connection and what you manifest by sitting in. And I've done that with all my founders except for one, who sit down and break. I say we break bread together. Yeah. Can you give some texture about what that emotional connection feels like? You don't have to shout specific founders out, or if you want. But I think people say this stuff. But can you let people in the room of what that actually is and what that is not? Because I think the nuance in that is very important, right? It is times it's manufactured and synthetic, and I'm like, ooh, like I'm just gonna go this way. And then there's times it's like, oh my God, where have you been my whole life? Like,
yes.
Can you just describe and give some examples so people can actually have some?
Yes, I'll give one positive and one negative. So the positive one, Dan Karen, founder of Health Universe in our portfolio, he was one of our first investments out of the fund. And I remember our first meeting because we spent an hour in person. He was highly recommended to me by a few people in my network. We went and caught up, and we spent the first probably like 45 minutes like really getting to know each other. And by the end of it, and after he shared his vision for the company, I was like, okay, I got it. Like I got like that actually from everything you shared about you, your background and where you want to go. This makes sense. Like this just makes sense. I'm in, and I want to genuinely help support you and help you build this. And it's been on a rocket ship since. And it was a real conversation. Like there were real things we talked about that I don't even know if I've shared in like intro hour-long meetings. Like
again, just to give people like coaching on this, like how did that come up? And was it like what meeting was that? Like was it before they opened the deck? I mean, I don't want to give people a formula and program, but I just just set that up so that people know how they can get in that pocket or how it doesn't, in a way. Because I especially first time founders, I think they actually have a lot of this genuine aspect of it. One of the things I did in my coaching was like actually work with one of my founders, and we role played how to sell to someone at a bar, right? And it wasn't because he wasn't earnest or didn't have all the bona fides. It's just like we just had to practice this and find the do you have some thoughts about that structure? Because I think that's so important, but like I would love to like have some definition on that.
Don't just start pitching.
Yeah.
Really start by asking thoughtful questions. Like don't just the best pitches I have heard, I have gone in feeling like they are excited to talk, share, whatever else, but not in an overly I'm not selling way, and not in a here's the pitch and product. And I think it's do your homework. Like yeah, go if you want to go on their Instagram, go on their Instagram, like read an article they wrote, like do something to really understand the person you are talking to and get to know the person and the motivation. So that could be a few quick, doesn't have to feel like a podcast interview or whatever else where you're asking back-to-back questions to try to check boxes. Just like, it's almost like would you rather be interested or interesting? Like, really be interested in the other person.
I like that.
Sometimes you might have to share, right? Like, sometimes you might have to share. Sometimes you might meet VCs who are like, I have 10 minutes right now. Like, can you just tell me whether or not this is a fit for me? So you're going to feel that. And so I think the advice is, one, be thoughtful, be genuinely interested if you're genuinely interested, because I think that goes both ways. And also know that, again, every meeting you have where you try it, like if you try it 4 times and you get shut down 4 times, it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it wrong. Maybe you should take a look inwards, because 4 is maybe starts to be at that number where, maybe listen to what the market has and maybe go and talk to a friendly person and ask for some real advice. But I also, and to go into the other bad story, I remember meeting this person and they went into this whole personal story around cancer, and they like teared up twice and they shared a few things, and it really felt like, it just felt fake. Like it just felt like they were trying to put on a show and a story. And I talked to another investor about it, and we walked through it, and it was the same thing. Like they teared up at the same, like it was all rehearsed,
manufactured,
and that comes across like it's, not that that's bad or worse, but all else being equal, I'd probably rather work with someone genuine than someone who's like trying to pull on my emotions to get me to feel something. So I would say just be genuine, be kind, and don't over-index on any one person or meeting.
Yeah, if I had to parse out those 2 stories, it's the difference. It sounds like it's the difference between one-way communication and two-way communication. Where some of the content may have been the same,
yep.
But just what the first story was. I'm interested in you building two-way communication, and they may have tiered at the right spot, and who knows, maybe they actually did it at the same time, asking the same questions. But the format was two-way from the way you described it, and the way you described the second one was a performance, right? It was. And that's what I heard, and that's
I will share from now on.
Yeah, well, listen, man. Nice thing about being a host is I just parrot back. Yeah, it's all you, man. Well, listen, like we have I like to try and finish with I could sit here and talk to you for hours, and I'm so like and I want to like whether I come back down to Austin. I'm an ex-Austinite. And when you're back here in the city. But I like to finish with a fast 4. Would you? And it's not fast like a rapid fire, but the same 4 questions I like to ask GPs before they leave.
I hope one of these is new.
No, they're easy. Like with the parameters being an investor, like can you just tell me about the best day you've had?
Best day I've had. Oh my God. Oh, there was this day we went, this has nothing to do with investing, sure. Where we went to Lake Tahoe on July 4th weekend with a bunch of my friends, and we skied in the morning.
Ooh, yeah. We're at Mammoth.
Bathing suits while skiing. And then at the end of the day, went and met all of our friends at a lake and just had good food and good weather. And I don't know, being able to ski in a morning and then go be in a lake and see a lot of people I care about in one day felt was really nice.
That's
we
amazing.
Should run that. Yeah,
we'll run that back. I mean, we should take some turns together at some point in time. I don't know if we haven't talked about skiing and snowboarding yet, but that's for sure.
Are you a skier or a snowboarder?
I am a little bit of a snowboarder. So I'm a snowboarder. I'm an instructor at Mount Snow. My AGM is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm a snowboarder too. I'm not at the instructor.
Sick. Let's do it. Dude, then you're a rider. I mean, I will, I'll show my office. I have all boxes of snowboard and snowboard gear from different suppliers I've worked with.
Oh my God.
We could do that for sure.
Yeah, this is the first time we're realizing this. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, side cut, by the way, is a reference to ski and snowboard geometry. So my AGM, and it's too bad. My AGM, we're going to Big Snow, and we're snowboarding.
Okay.
And doing comedy. I was talking about that. So Tahoe, best day. Tell me about the worst day. you had in
Oh my God. I mean, it's cheating, but it was mid-cancer. And I remember um, I had been maybe on chemo for like 4 days, and I felt terrible. Like I felt so genuinely uncomfortable in my body. I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk. You couldn't do anything, where I actually felt uncomfortable in my own skin. And I was like, okay, there's actually no way that I could do 5 months of this. And I started having this whole emotional journey. And I called my oncologist. I was like, I have to come in right now, because I really don't know if I could do this, because it was so whatever. And it turns out he like left the room for like 30 minutes, went through everything. And it turns out I had a rare adverse reaction to one of the anti-nausea drugs I had.
Oh my
And
God.
and I was taking it 4 times a day. And so he was like, okay, you're going to stop taking this drug, and we're going to like put you on some pain meds, whatever, for the next 6 to 8 hours. And let's see what happened. I was fine. I mean, I wasn't fine. I was whatever, but that was the longest, scariest day, because it was the first day I was like, I actually think I have to decide whether or not I want to like live the rest of my life in whatever way without the drugs, and see how long that gets me, or like mentally figure out a way to deal with this pain and discomfort, because it was insane.
Oh my
It
God.
was, I can't explain the pain, because it was more than pain. It was like, if you've ever been really, really, really uncomfortable, it was that magnified with whatever. And it was just, I remember that day so clearly.
I can't imagine.
That was bad.
Unreal.
And for anyone that might ever be feeling, it's called Zofran is the drug.
Mhm.
So never know who to just tell, just in case someone else at some point. Zofran, I'm sure, is a fine drug, but not for apparently me.
Not for you.
Yeah.
Shout out number 3. Like who's one person you want to give a shout out to right now that's been incredibly helpful to you?
Oh my God. My dad. He truly has helped support me from getting this off the ground. He does our CFO work for the fund too, and has been an emotional ear and really helpful and supportive as I launch the fund.
Amazing. I love that family's involved.
Yeah.
My family's involved in my fund, and it's like you so many people you don't want to say that. Like it's like
my parents, my sister, they've come to my AGMs, kickoff events. Yeah, our portfolio company CEOs, a lot of our LPs know my family.
Amazing. Last question. Legacy. How do you want to be remembered?
Someone who did what they said they were going to do. I think hopefully I have always followed through on things I have told or promised folks. And if we could make some dent in the world of, okay, let's actually see what we could do to improve care today. You know what I want to do? I want to hopefully create through our fund portfolio mission some form of urgency. And I think there is a lot of urgency in cancer care, but people are dying. Like people are literally dying today because of perverse incentive structures, lack of interoperability, like stuff that is so fixable. And if I could in some way help fund, support, encourage people in positions of power to make that dent, I'll be happy.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Ben, my friend, you are a treasure, both personally and professionally. So thank you so much for spending time, Ben Freeberg from Oncology Ventures. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oncology Ventures website, Oncology Ventures Substack, email Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm more than happy to. I'll filter for you for sure. I'll filter all your flow.
Awesome. This was fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Alone Together. This was an amazing way to kick off season 2. I'm so glad. I mean, I'm sad we waited. I'm so glad we waited, though. And I feel like we have so much more to catch up on, either at a comedy club, over a drink, or on a chairlift, which may be even better at some point in time. I'm really looking forward to it. Awesome. Ben, thanks for coming on the show. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Please tell your friends. We're going to break dozens of listeners here this season. I'm kidding. We're farther for that, but
just share it.
We're really excited. Thank you so much for joining us Alone Together, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Awesome.